I'm not gonna lie and say like, hey, I don't have moments of fear or anxiety, like, but it's in those moments where you just need to like stop and renew your mind.
Back when our churches closed, so did many of the ministries. And so for many of our church's leaders, it's been hard to continue to serve people in the way that they did before the pandemic. My friend Andy is actually in this position. His ministry has changed, and what he thought that he'd be doing for this year is not what he's working on today.
We had planned already that during this time we would have evangelistic series where we invite people in the community to come to our churches and attend seminars. But now with everything that's going on,
can't do that anymore.
Yeah, exactly. So the question is, how do we do that? So now what we're doing is we're trying to bring it now in a modern way where we do these presentations, via live stream, or maybe a lot of people have questions about, hey, the COVID-19, what is this? And it makes them feel uncertain in the world that we're in right now. And so we're trying to address those concerns so that people can feel maybe more secure in their workplace or in their family or in their spiritual realm. This situation made us like open our eyes a little bit more into maybe a need out there. It's helped us as a church to say, hey, church doesn't just happen, in the place I congregate once a week, but it happens in the community. It happens by me going to them in a sense. And where are most people, where they at? They're in their phones, they're in media. And so it's a learning curve, like I mentioned. And so we just need to, adjust, adapt so that we can be effective at what we're doing.
When the virus first hit, I think it's fair to say that everybody was a little too relaxed about the whole situation. But then things got more serious. Our churches and schools closed, vacation plans were gone, and then our borders closed. In the middle of all this, Andy was actually stuck in Mexico trying to get back home. Stuck in a different country, Andy was able to see the virus from a global perspective.
When I was in Mexico, I was talking with my wife, and she was sharing with me really what was happening here. And I know I could hear a little bit of her anxiety through the phone, and I was like, hey babe, it's gonna be fine, we're pretty stocked up. But I didn't see that. But a couple of days into Mexico, I started seeing, okay, stores were starting to close down. When I was going to like the bus terminal or things like that, like they were being very cautious or intentional as well. As people were coming on, like out of the bus, they would give you hand sanitizer, they would scan your temperature. And so it started hitting me quite a bit there. But I just got off the phone with my dad today, and he wanted to go just for a checkup for like hearing aid. And they just told him like, hey, right now this isn't our priority. Right now we're just trying to focus on people who might have these type of symptoms. And so for your case, we're just gonna have to put you aside. But I don't think Mexico is one of those countries that it's as active right now. But I think that they're taking those necessary precautions to avoid, something bigger to happen. My wife and I were actually, up to the day that I was going to leave, we weren't sure if I was going to take off, just because I think at that point we were starting to have a lot of, notices saying, hey, you can't leave your home. And I think that the president closed the borders from Europe, flights coming in. And so my concern was being stuck in Mexico.
Yeah, do I get to come home or not?
Exactly, and leaving my wife here in the States. I think just kind of thinking about it, praying about it, we just said, it's been a long time since I've seen my parents, let's just go. When I got back, I saw the reality of how it was, how people were having this panic shopping mode. And it didn't kick in until I actually had to go to Costco to actually do a toilet paper run, and so I was like, man, people are really freaking out. And but again, it's just kind of going through that process of like, hey, you know what, like, it's okay, like, I just need to continue to just trust God and do my part. Obviously, I'm not just gonna go be wandering off and like be careless, but I need to do my part and just trust God.
So you're not saying that there's no opportunity for fear or anxiety. Like, there might even be moments where it presents itself and you're like, oh shoot, like, and you get caught up with all the commotion of what's going on. But in that moment, you're saying, no, I'm going to trust God.
Exactly. I mean, that's part of human nature. I'm not going to lie and say like, hey, I don't have moments of fear or anxiety. Like, but it's in those moments where you just need to like stop and renew your mind.
Yeah.
And so I think, especially in Mexico, I think there was a lot more people at church, and I think it's just kind of bringing this awareness of like, man, what's really happening in the world. I'm pretty plugged into social media, and so I'm able to see people saying like, 2020, can we just like hit the restart button?
Yeah.
Like, can we like, do a redo? Like, it's just right now people are trying to figure out what's going on, what's really happening, because they're being shaken up, so.
One major part of the challenge is that information isn't always so clear, and with so many states mandating different things, it just adds to the confusion. And then, of course, confusion leads to fear, but Andy doesn't want fear to be ruling his life for the lives of the people around him. So he's finding assurance in something bigger than fear itself, something bigger than our country, and something bigger than the virus itself.
Yeah, so I recently just spoke with an aunt who is not Adventist, and we were FaceTiming, and so she had a lot of questions about like, what can she do, what can she not do. She literally thought she couldn't step outside because she thought that she was going to get the virus. So from our conversation, you could tell that there's just a lot of worry in her, just worry not just for her, for herself, but for her niece or her granddaughter. And so I think what people really need right now is the peace that we understand that comes from God. Recently I was actually reading through Psalms 91, and it was just sharing how God is our shelter, our refuge, our fortress. And there's no place here locally that I can go, come here to God and find fortress. It's something that has to happen in our minds and heart. It's something where we can just say, you know what, this is out of my hands, but I'm gonna just really in my mind renew myself, not dwell on the what's happening in front of me, but really dwell on what God can provide in my life. Bring me that security, that assurance that everything's gonna be okay.
Do you feel like that's working for you, or does it feel like you're faking it till you make it?
Completely honest, it is working for me.
Really?
It is working for me, because when I renew my mind, and it's something that Paul talks about in the New Testament, is that if in any moment I start freaking out about a situation or a pandemic that's happening, then my mind goes completely a different way from where God, I know where he wants my mind to lead. And so it's that process of continuing to renew my mind by saying, God, right now I'm freaking out, like, just send me some encouragement or send me some strength, and so through that I'm able to find that peace or that shelter during those difficult times. I think right now, like, the thing that's really leading me is the gospel. It's specifically just Christ in me, the hope. And I think just during times where there's just so much uncertainty, I think it's the promise of Christ in me. And what does that mean? That means love. That means peace. That means freedom. That means forgiveness. And so that's something that I can't just experience on my own, but I could even share that as well.
Yeah.
And so that to me is something that I could really resonate right now with.
I love what Andy said about what he saw in Mexico. When fear of the pandemic was sweeping across Mexico, he saw more people turning to God. People are learning that they need to be able to depend on something greater than themselves. Jesus never said that things in this world were going to be easy, but he did comfort us by saying that he has overcome the world. So if you find yourself needing some additional peace in these difficult times, know that there is certainty in Christ that is filled with hope, love, and freedom. And like Andy, when we find it, we're meant to share it. So may you share this comfort, this peace that passes all understanding with all of those around you.